Bubbly Steve is available for pre-order at shopclownfish.com. That's shopclownfish.com. You've got less than a month to pre-order this 15-inch plushie. Check them out. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
It's time for another daily dose of Dismal Disney. We haven't done one of those for a while.
No, we've been busy with other things.
But we do talk a lot about Disney on this channel, given that we worked in and around the company for a number of years, and Geeky does run a Disney blog, piratesandprincesses.net. And we've been following the situation with Disney and their movie releases and how salty a lot of theater owners are that they actually got called out by NATO, not that NATO, but the National Association of Theater Owners, for releasing Black Widow at the same time on Disney Plus as they did in the theaters, and they're like, we lost money and you guys are sticking it to us.
Well, they're blaming the second week crash on that as well.
Yeah.
And then Disney keeps putting out these puff pieces about, oh, Disney Plus had this many views and purchases, and they have Samba TV talking about it too. And again, I want to point out, well, that's great, except, you know, I don't buy for 1 minute they aren't putting it in a warehouse somewhere with a bunch of computers running it over and over and over again. Look at all the views we got.
So they can brag to the investors.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you know, that aside, they got in trouble because the theater owners are like, you kind of screwed us over here. Other places are giving us their first run, but that hasn't exactly worked out well with you know, the Looney Tunes, you know, what was it?
Space Jam.
Space Jam.
Yeah.
What was, I forget what it was all called, but like whatever it was.
Some legend of the
Who Gives a Shit.
The Who Gives a Shit.
And you know, we have Snake Eyes, and it did crap.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly doing that great. Anyway, the biggest thing we've had out, even with the theaters, has been Black Widow. So, I mean, theatrically, it still gave the theaters a lot more money than these other films did. I'm not taking Disney's side here, but, you know, it was a much bigger opening than those other movies were.
So keep that in mind, that there's already some animosity between Disney and the theater owners.
That was the first thing I thought of when I saw this today.
And suddenly, Disney cancels their stage presentation at CinemaCon over COVID concerns.
Right. They're saying they're afraid of the Delta variant, and because the cases in Las Vegas have gone up, they cannot send their executives and their employees to CinemaCon to present. But they can still put people nuts to butts in the theme parks and put those cast members at risk, and keep opening more and more theme park passes availability. Even for the 50th anniversary, it was like cut off. It was all gone. Suddenly a bunch reopened, and they just keep adding more and more and more people. The lines, there are articles out there complaining about the lines are just terrible. There is no fast passes anymore, so the lines are atrocious. That was just the line you saw there for a minute ago, just to get a margarita.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's the margarita line. They're weaving lines. I saw one the other day that people were waiting to get onto the Kilimanjaro safaris. The line started up by where the Starbucks is, if you're familiar with the park, went clear through backstage, everything else to get to the safaris. They have so many people they're shoving in, and the social distancing stuff's gone. That's just they can't use that excuse. The lines look long, but they're not because of social distancing, because those markers are gone. So they are totally fine to shove people in, you know, the walking dollar bills. I mean, guests. They can shove them in, you know, put those cast members at risk if they're so worried about this Delta variant. But the executives going to the CinemaCon in Las Vegas cannot do a stage presentation. I want to mention, you know who's the host of CinemaCon in Las Vegas? NATO.
Oh, okay. So, in other words, Mickey Mouse is having a tantrum.
They're having a little, in my opinion, they're having a little hissy fit because they have no problem putting cast members at risk with a lot of guests.
Yeah. So, you know, we know that people at Disney can be very petty. I remember a few years ago that there were certain news outlets that were blocked from screenings because they had covered Disney negatively, and they were not allowed to give Marvel openings. I think it was the LA Times was one of them. There were a few other ones, even though it had nothing to do. One thing had nothing to do with the other. It was about the labor dispute, I think, in Disneyland. And because they were not kissing Disney's ass or taking Disney's side in it, Disney said, you're not allowed to come to our screenings anymore.
Well, here's the thing. They look bad either way because, you know, if they're saying they can't send executives there because it's dangerous for them. They're basically saying that their executives are worth more to them than their cast members in the park, which even looks even worse. But the reality of the situation most likely is they're mad because NATO called their ass out.
Yeah.
And they're pissed about it. But that's okay. They're not going to do their in-person stage presentation. No, instead they're going to screen one of their upcoming movies.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the theater's already mad because you went and did what you did, and so the theater tickets didn't sell as much. Now, to be fair, though, they still outsold these other movies that went directly to theaters only. So the theaters were still getting more money off of Black Widow than they probably were from these other movies.
G.I. Joe from Snake Eyes.
It better be one of their Disney Plus films. Otherwise, they're screening a movie they haven't released to the theaters, which is good. And then they said there's also going to be some virtual elements of this event that are going to be streamed for people to attend.
Yeah.
So if it's a theatrical release, they theoretically could be leaking it to a bunch of people, ahead of the movie release, which is going to hurt the movie theaters again.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's a Disney Plus movie because otherwise it'd be really, really, really shitty. But this is a temper tantrum. This is a mouse meltdown, if you will.
Mickey Mouse meltdown. So this is taking place in Vegas. Caesar's Palace, big place. Fit a lot of people in there. So this is exactly what this is. And we know Disney does this.
And I wrote this, and I didn't know anything about it, but apparently Deadline said the same thing. They felt that it was the same thing. And I didn't pull it up. I found it after this article. So it's not just me saying that it's a little weird with the timing here, guys, that NATO is hosting this event. NATO called Disney out about the Black Widow issue, and now all of a sudden Disney can't go because of the Delta variant, but they have no problem shoving all kinds of park guests and putting, if they're so worried about Delta variant and think, it's a problem, then why they keep upping the amount of park capacity and shoving guests in, putting their cast members and guests at risk in their own opinion based on the fact that, the Delta variant is something they should worry about.
Yeah. This happened with, this is definitely a temper tantrum. I have no doubt. But this happened with, at the beginning of COVID with Sony not sending their executives to one of the shows. I think it was PAX. And the mayor of Boston said that Sony was being racist. Because
that was funny.
Because they were like, oh, okay, well, you're not sending people, and it sends a bad message, and you're going to be blaming China for this virus. And they're like, no, we just want to keep our people safe. And then they wound up canceling the show. That's what they're talking about here in the Hollywood Reporter. They're like, are they just going to cancel?
They might, because so far no other studios have done this, but because Disney did it, now other places may feel the need to do it, but then a lot of these other places are playing ball at the theaters, and the theaters are giving them everything they've got. It would look really shitty of them to pull out, from that, because Disney did. But I still think this whole thing's about Disney having a
I have no doubt. Because
they still did their Jungle Cruise premiere yesterday at Disneyland. They did that star-studded thing. But I guess you had to have COVID tests 48 hours before, and they had these guidelines you had to meet with vaccines or different things like that.
Yeah.
But they had no problem doing that. They sent their executives into that. That's okay. But we can't go to Vegas to do this event. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for the safety of our people.
Yeah, well, probably is for the safety of their people because they send Disney executives to this NATO shindig. They're going to get their ass chewed out.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably is. This kind of reminds me
of
the
mental safety.
The mental safety of our executives who are going to get their asses chewed out. This happened at New York Comic Con a couple of years ago too, with angry comic book retailers cornering Marvel people in the hallways and being like, what the hell are you doing? We can't sell your comic books.
Yep, I forgot about that.
And that's what would happen here. What the hell are you doing? You're not giving us anything to work with. And Disney, it was all lip service. They were all like, hey, yeah, we like theaters. We do, as long as they're useful. As long as they're useful.
Now, Hollywood Reporter does point out one thing. They said that the way that the convention area is set up, it's not like a regular convention area where they can control the flow. It's going to be harder to control the flow of people because of the casino.
Yeah.
So, there is a point to it, I do think. But I don't think that's what this is about. If I could be wrong, and I'm not going to say I'm right on this because I don't know. But it wasn't just me who thought so. It's just very convenient. They get their ass called out, and then suddenly they can't attend this event. But they still, and if they were taking people and saying, hey, we're going to cut back the attendance of the parks and stuff again to keep our people safe and all that other stuff and keep guests safe, I'd be like, okay, yes, it's a mandate. They're trying to do all that. But they're not doing that. They're still shoving them in.
So I'm waiting for the press release from NATO to be like, oh, we're really disappointed to hear that Disney isn't coming to the show, but we understand that they're taking social distancing very, very seriously, and we do fully expect for them to cut back on capacity.
Yes, and reinstate distancing since they're so worried about Delta variant and their employees getting sick.
Yes, since they're so worried about it, we expect that they're going to make announcements soon that they're going to cut back on the attendance.
You know, a lot of people are predicting the mask mandate's going to come back.
Oh, I probably. But this is interesting. Hollywood Reporter got this dig in at the very end. They said Disney's decision came several days after NATO issued...
See, it's not just me who thought this.
Yep. Issued a press release blasting the company for revealing that Black Widow made $60 million during its opening weekend on Disney Plus Premier Access, which might be why they didn't talk about week 2. I mean, one, I think there was a massive drop-off. And two, I think it's because they don't want to piss these people off anymore. But in addition to earning north of $158 million at global launch over the July 9th through 11th weekend, NATO said that trumpeting the additional revenue undermines the theatrical experience and that it was misleading.
Yeah, and then Disney suddenly decides, oh, this looks dangerous because of Delta variants, we can't go.
I got the black lung.
By the way, open more park capacity.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, if they're really concerned about the Delta variant, they're gonna cut back on park capacity.
Well, it's funny because the one article said that they had been talking about it for several weeks when they decided they were going to pull back on that, and that they said that, and then I was like, but that was the case within that time frame. You have since opened up more 50th anniversary capacity on October 1st. They're going to have so many people shoved in there. You're going to be lucky if you can ride 2 rides and move.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's fine. But we can't send our executives to CinemaCon because, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we know what the actual motivator is here. They're
either that or they have to admit that they think their executives are worth more than their other cast members.
Well, they are. Do you know how much they pay them?
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying, their health matters more to them. And that would even make them look even more shitty.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just fodder. They're the pawns. All right. So we got to wrap this one up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.